Hello and welcome to On Purpose Astrology. I'm Mandi Lockley, and this is a short video about the latest full moon on the 31st of August in the UK and Eastern time zones in the US, and more Western time zones, it's on the 30th of August. It's a full moon in Pisces, which means the moon is in Pisces opposite the sun in Virgo. You might have also heard about this being a blue moon. See all my blue background here. Blue moon. What is a blue moon? Well, it doesn't really mean anything astrologically, but because the lunar month is 29 days and because the calendar months are 30 or 31 days, barring obviously 28 days for February, we have more lunar months than we have calendar months in a year, more or less. So occasionally, about once a year, you will get a full moon at the beginning of a calendar month. In this case, there was a full moon on the 1st of August, and then you get at the end of the month, you get a second full moon, a blue moon, at the end of the month, i.e. 31st of August. So what is the astrology about and around this current full moon? Let's have a look at the chart. For those of you that like to see the visual and you are interested in reading the chart, you can see here you've got the moon in Pisces at the top of the chart, top right of the chart, just into house 9 there, circled in red, and it's conjunct Saturn in Pisces, and we'll talk about what that means. The bottom of the chart there, just in house 3, you can see the sun in Virgo. So it's where the practical sun in Virgo energy, with its rational thinking and its matter-of-fact communication style, is lit up during this full moon by the emotional moon in Pisces. So the focus is on our feelings at this time, not just how we feel, not just how we feel, but how we react when we feel certain things. How do we react in sadness or anger or grief or joy or happiness? All of our feelings, all of our emotions, how do we express them? With Saturn here, we are invited to take responsibility for the way we express our feelings and how we act them out and how we feel them generally. We could ask ourselves during this full moon, are our feelings in perspective with what we are experiencing? And how are your moods and your expressions of your emotions affecting others? Because when the moon hits Saturn in any kind of meaningful way, I mean, it makes a conjunction, it makes all its the moon goes around the chart once a month, as we said, 29 days. So it makes all the different aspects to Saturn as it goes around. But when it makes a meaningful aspect to Saturn, such as in a full moon or such as in an eclipse, which is also a lunation, of course, in itself, then it has a message for us. So moon, Saturn. So what is Saturn's message for us? Well, we're invited to come into more of our own emotional maturity, our emotional intelligence, if you like, is one of the things that Saturn invites us to do. The moon Saturn cycle in progressions, if for those of you, those astrologers that know and follow progressions, is a cycle of emotional maturity and security, of course, because Saturn is about security. So it's about taking responsibility and about thinking, is my reaction in proportion to what's happening to me? That could be, out of proportion on one side where you're overreacting or maybe underreacting. Maybe you are feeling like the victim who can't stick up for yourself. Maybe an authority figure or an authority in your workplace or your own kind of mental or emotional authority that your conscience is sitting on your shoulder is telling you that you should act to defend yourself or assert yourself, for example. So it goes both ways. We've had, of course, the Mars opposite Neptune for a while. Mars in Virgo opposite Neptune in Pisces. So again, we've had that for a while. We've had that Virgo, Pisces idea, that balance, that kind of dynamic between Virgo and Pisces with Mars and Neptune. Mars now has moved into Libra. And in Libra, Mars wants peace. Mars wants to make reparations for anything that might have happened previously in the last few weeks or perhaps even the last few months. So Mars wants to make peace with yourself, but also make peace with others, perhaps. Now, going back to Moon in Pisces, where are we letting our imaginations get the better of us, making things bigger or dismissing things, rather than seeing the reality of what is happening for us, what is before us, what our emotions are? So we're asked to see things for what they are. And the Sun in Virgo is very good for this, because Virgo is the sign of reality and matter-of-factness and logical thinking and taking one small step towards finding solutions, rather than Pisces, which kind of goes with the flow and perhaps doesn't really have so much of a mission. We can look at the Virgo Pisces axis as being something about where we can and do try to control, and where it's appropriate to control things, and where we can't control things. Pisces is more about going with the flow, surrendering and letting go. It's an invitation, I think, this full moon, to let go of hurts that aren't serving you as a first step to healing them. Think about any challenging circumstances in relationships, because this is, after all, an opposition, which is about relationships, how we relate to other and the world, but also about how we relate to ourselves and getting ourselves back into some kind of balance. So think about challenging circumstances in relationships or in your own relationship to yourself over the last few weeks. Maybe if you'd like to go deeper with this, you could think about how the circumstances, whatever might have happened, are related to old patterns that you've been playing out. Perhaps there's a message here to become aware of them and start to clear them if they're not serving you. As I said, Virgo Sun helps us to analyze and see these patterns for what they are. As I said, some things you can't control. That's the message of Virgo. Some things maybe you'd like to put a little bit of a boundary around. That's the Pisces message. Pisces is a sign that tends towards boundarylessness, lack of boundaries, for want of a better phrase. Saturn is here to remind us those boundaries might need to be reassessed here with this full moon. Full moon, of course, is the full light of the moon, so things do come to the light for us to be able to see them, clear them, heal them, etc. We have the full moon is also associated with having a great time and partying, for example. People come out on the full moon, so it's a great time actually for anything that's creative, this full moon, and for connecting and merging with others, but still maintaining our own boundaries and not letting ourselves totally merge, because Saturn is there. Even if we want to kind of lose ourselves in something, Saturn is saying, hold on, ground. I think grounding is a very good message as well for this full moon, because Saturn is a grounding presence. So whenever you do anything, flights of the imagination, something, associated with drugs sometimes and addiction sometimes, Pisces. Ground yourself. Don't get yourself lost in it. Don't, just say no if you need to. Get help if you do have addictions, of course. Very creative and very spiritual, the Sun in Pisces. So that's another thing to think about, creative and spirituality. Again, if you think Saturn is blocking your spirituality or blocking your creativity, blocking your imagination or letting your imagination go to dark places, try again to think of Saturn as a grounding influence. So grounding into the earth. Again, we go back into the Sun in Virgo. It's a very grounding sign. Think about grounding. Think about anchoring yourself to the earth. And from there, once you're grounded, then you can let your imagination, your creativity, your spiritual work fly higher. So The full moon, as I say, asks us to consider and find some balance between what we can control and what we can't control. Pisces actually reminds us that sometimes the only thing we can really do and say is, okay, it is as it is. That's the reality of it. Again, reality is Saturn. Sometimes we have to resign and surrender. We don't have to give in to manipulation. We don't have to give in to the dark forces, so to speak. We can ground ourselves and protect ourselves. Again, Saturn is a sign that Saturn is a planet where we can use their energy as Saturn's energy to protect ourselves, to set our boundaries, so we don't have to be manipulated or taken advantage of, because that's also a thing with Pisces. So going back to the emotional aspect of Moon in Pisces, if you feel your emotions getting the better of you, try to just take a pause, take a moment, take a breath. And when and if emotions start to run high, take yourself out of the situation. As I said, set those boundaries. Ongoing to this full moon is, of course, the Venus in Leo retrograde. In this chart, which is set for London, for different locations, it'll be in another different house, but you can see that Venus retrograde in Leo in the first house in this chart. So it's a continuation of assessing what our values are, what we want, what we desire out of life, what and who we value in our lives. Loyalty, where do our loyalties lie? Loyalty is a key word for Leo, of course. Where have we not shone? Where do we want to shine in the future? Or where have we been in the spotlight when we haven't wanted to be in the spotlight? And of course, this full moon is also a period of Mercury retrograde, also in Virgo. Virgo, of course, is the sign that the sun is in, and Mercury rules Virgo. So you've got a strong Virgoan theme here. We talked a little bit about it being about rationality, about control, about also the attention to detail, about taking very small steps in the right direction. Mercury retrograde, I've done a whole video about Mercury retrograde. We know some of the basics. I'm sure most of you know some of the basics about Mercury retrograde. It's about communication. It's about reassessing our communication style. It's about taking a kind of step back, revising, renewing, relaxing. Try and relax the mind as well. This is a great full moon for meditation. Pisces moon, of course, and Mercury in Virgo, certainly at all times, but when it's retrograde, makes us kind of perhaps thinking over past things, past hurts. I talked earlier about, what are the hurts that you're still holding on to? Your little mind chatter might be going over and over and over things, having conversations with yourself and conversations in your mind with other people. Take a break from that, take a breath, go with the flow, reassess. Once Mercury retrograde is over, which I think it's the 16th of September from memory, then things will start moving forward again. So Mercury here, you can see it's making a trine, an Earth trine with Jupiter. So this is a nice aspect. It helps us when we get into that Mercury in Virgo, going over the fine, torturing ourselves with the finer details and torturing ourselves with just the little things that might be getting us down, the little things that we're thinking about. Jupiter helps to give us the better perspectives. It brings us back down to earth. Jupiter in Taurus here, the very strong fixed earth sign of Taurus. Helps us to see the bigger perspective again, and helps us to see the reality, the balance between those small steps that we have to take every day, those routines and habits that we take every day in our lives, and the bigger perspective where we are going. So perhaps this is a time to think about, okay, I've got this habit, every day is the same. I've got this routine, every day is the same. Where is it actually taking me? Where is the growth? Where is the opportunity? Again, taking some time to evaluate and reevaluate, of course, these questions is a good way to use not only the Mercury Jupiter trine, but also, of course, this full moon. And remember that the moon in Pisces, Pisces itself is a sign that is about intuition. So not only that logical, analytical thinking of Virgo, think about what your intuition is telling you. So that when things start to move forward, when I think it's the 5th of September, Venus starts to move forward. As I said, I think it's the 16th of September when Mercury starts to move forward, then you will better be able to discern the way forward for you that works for you. And perhaps then new opportunities will come to light and you'll have a better idea using that analytical thinking, the bigger picture, but also the small details of things, the kind of the day-to-day, the bigger picture, and also the intellect. It's about the mind and the body and the intuition, the gut feelings all working together actually is a brilliant way to sort of think about getting the best out of this full moon. As I say, try to tune into your intuition. I find a good thing for the moon in Pisces generally, but particularly for a full moon, for a lunation. It's good for doing guided meditations, those kind of meditations where someone's speaking into you, you know, you're listening to a meditation, you get yourself deep into the meditation, you go on a flight of fancy, you go to a new world and you have experiences, those kind of guided meditations that really boost your imagination. Imagination, of course, is a Piscean thing. Creativity, I've talked about as well, and spirituality. And as I said, I've already mentioned, if you feel that Saturn's heavy energy, it's a heavy planet, right? Saturn, it's a heavy planet. And in Pisces, it's a heavy planet that wants to kind of let go of the heaviness. So there might be some challenges there. How do I let go of this heaviness? Again, that's a good thing to do with Saturn in Pisces, especially on this moon here, is to think of it as grounding you. Think of it as something that is setting you in place. So you are in a strong, boundaried place by which then you can let your imagination fly. I hope that's useful and interesting. I hope it's relevant to at least some of you. Have a fantastic new moon and wishing you lots of love and light during this beautiful full moon. As I say, it's a full light of the moon. Look at the moon, enjoy the moon. Before I go, I just want to remind you, if you've seen the video about where I interviewed Bob Chang, we talked about a new conference, 1st to the 3rd of December. It has 17 talks by international astrologers plus a 2-hour workshop on locational, relocation astrology. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. The theme is building bridges for the future. Fantastic astrologers, all different kinds of astrology, different, relationships, psychological astrology, traditional astrology, financial astrology, and health astrology, as I say, geographical astrology. It's absolutely fantastic opportunity. It's £50, 50 Great British pounds until the 31st of August, the day of this full moon, actually, which is an absolute bargain. After that, it's £100. Which is also a bargain in itself. You get the opportunity to listen to all the talks plus the workshop for £50 before the 31st of August. By the 31st of August, but from the 1st of September, it's £100. All the live talks you'll be able to listen to, but you will also have access to all the recordings of the talks for 2 months. So you can rewatch the ones that you liked, also the ones that you missed. So please consider booking that if you're interested in astrology. It's the talk, some of them will be, many of them actually be aimed at beginners in astrology students, but there's also going to be a lot of interesting stuff for more experienced astrologers, a balance across all of those different levels. As I say, you can dip your toe in and watch whatever you like and you'll have access to rewatch. So I'll put the details underneath. Have a wonderful, 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 wonderful full moon, and sending it, as I've already said, but it's worth saying over and over again, lots of love and light to all of you. Thank you for watching and please subscribe.